Welcome to the first episode of According to Mimi. I am your host, Mimi McClure, and I welcome you to join me every single month as I connect with the community to bring different topics of interest, inspirational motivation, business features that will entertain, educate, and empower you. I ask that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on all of my social media platforms so you won't miss a show. Let's go to Terry with the commentary to find out more.
Hey y'all, it's your boy Terry of Commentary, and I'm so excited to be joining forces with Mimi on According to Mimi. I'm really happy about this venture, and I'm so excited to see what she brings everyone in this new show. Each month, my job is to offer you some tips, maybe a trick, and or feature a different business to educate you or entertain you or even empower you. So if you want your business featured, please reach out to me at Get Commentary. Remember, Terry is Terry at gmail.com. Get Commentary at gmail.com. Starting with our very first one. You ready? You already know her. She's amazing. She's a great friend. She's a sister. She's a mother. She is a wife. She's an aunt. She's a daughter. She's an author. She is a powerhouse. She's so business savvy. It's none other than Sean Vaughn of Vaughn Media. She has also produced many different shows, including my own Commentary, The Commentary, as well as what you're watching now, According to Mimi.
You guys can learn to become a compelling leader, co-worker, friend, and that way that can deter the annoyance, and we can now work together in a cohesive, connected work environment.
The problem today is that so many leaders are still implementing that old traditional leadership style model that they are missing the mark with their employees. Their employees are not engaged and they're not empowered. So that's where my heart forward leadership conversation comes into play. When you implement these 4 principles of heart forward leadership, you will see that you can reduce employee turnover. You're going to foster that employee buy-in, which is going to drive engagement, which is driving your productivity. And then you're going to be promoting a multi-generational workforce.
Guys, we got something special just for you. We have a gift that we would love to give away from our featured business, Vaughn Media, LLC. So if you like, share, tag, and subscribe to According to Mimi, you could win a free book about heart forward leadership. All right, Mimi, it's back to you. Don't call me for nothing else. I'm in quarantine.
So, as individuals around the world respond to and are living in what we call the new normal, it is important that we stay connected to the most current and relevant information that's out there to protect our families. The CDC website, part of the CDC website, the current data suggests a disproportionate burden of illness and death amongst racial and ethnic groups. Now, everybody, today I have joining me my gorgeous and beautiful friend, life and success coach, Brandy Lou of Gorgeous Warrior, and she is here to share her COVID-19 experience as well as talk us through how we can heal and help during this process. Brandy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mimi.
Excellent. So before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about your life and success coach business, Gorgeous Warrior?
Yes, I would love to. So basically, Gorgeous Warrior, I created Gorgeous Warrior for just that specific, beautiful, strong woman. She is typically the woman that holds it all together. She's usually running her own business or running the show. She's the boss everywhere she goes. She can handle just about anything that's thrown at her, but she does have a little secret. And typically that secret is she needs rest. And she's tired.
That's me. I need rest.
Yes, you are Gorgeous Warrior, my friend. You are definitely a gorgeous warrior. So I created Gorgeous Warrior for women like you that need that rest, that need to take care of themselves, that somehow along the way have forgotten how important it is to take care of yourself. And you do a great job of taking care of everyone else and making sure everything else is taken care of. But this, I created the Warrior, and the Warrior is an acronym for women on a mission to achieve ridiculously radical insight on rediscovering, reclaiming, and reevaluating her life's goals.
That's beautiful.
Yes, I feel so passionate about this. I developed a retreat where I created a retreat, which was going to be in July of this year, which we had to postpone. But in my mind, I feel as if we can heal the woman, we can heal the world.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. And Brandy, number one, I believe in your mission because I was going to attend the retreat in July and I was so excited and ready for it. And things have changed. As you know, we're dealing with the worldwide pandemic, which is why I wanted you to come on the show. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk us through this process on how we can help and heal others. But I also wanted you to share your COVID-19 experience with the According to Mimi listeners.
Yes, Mimi. Whew. So COVID has changed my life and my family's life forever. Our lives have been changed, saddened. It's lost for words, Mimi. My dad and my mother had COVID. They were diagnosed with COVID. My mother, she healed. She did okay with the virus. However, my dad, who was 66 years old, very otherwise, he did have COPD, Misha. And I know some people say, oh, well, that's the reason he died. No, because he was doing really well. I mean, with COPD, he was extremely active. He was building things. He built awnings on our house. He helped to build a garage. I mean, he was just a very strong, active man. And previous to him coming down with this virus, he had bronchitis.
Oh, wow.
And this was all during the time Mardi Gras had just passed and the Chinese festival had just passed. And my parents live in Louisiana, about 20 miles west of New Orleans. And I was there, Misha. I was there with them. It was right before Mardi Gras, and he was coughing when he had the bronchitis. And we joked about it in the kitchen because at that moment, people were just starting to talk about COVID. It wasn't anything. It was like 1,000 cases, but it was, no one had really died. Not too many people had passed. And we laughed and we talked in the kitchen. And I said, Dad, make sure you drink a lot of water. And he said, girl, what are you trying to say? I got COVID. And I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, no, Daddy, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying, we have to take these precautions because even though the president is saying that this is a hoax, I don't necessarily believe that this is a hoax. I think we should, really take this into consideration and just kind of just be careful, wash your hands, do everything that people are saying on TV. As far as the CDC and people are saying, and Dr. Fauci, because, he had different messages, which he still have different messages today from our president. And my mom basically got better, Misha. And my dad went into the hospital. Let's see, he went into urgent care because, he and my mom got tested. And it took them 12 days to get the test results. I mean,
12 days?
12 days for them to get their test results, which was ridiculous. Well, during that 12-day span, my mom got better while they're waiting at home to get their results. but my dad did not.
Wow.
And I could hear it in his voice that he couldn't breathe, but he's such a strong man, you know, and he's proud, and he's, you know, he wouldn't say that, you know, I'm sick. He would always say, I'm fine, I can breathe, I'm fine. Brandy, if I can't breathe, I will definitely go to the hospital. Well, that day they got tested for COVID, and they told him it would be 12 days before they would know. Well, they said 2 to 14 days that they would know. My dad was sent to the hospital to have his lungs x-rayed. And when he had his lungs x-rayed, they were clear.
Okay.
So he came home.
Now, with that, Brandy, I don't mean to interrupt you, but with that, is that a component of COVID-19? They say that it affects people's lungs initially?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. So what there were, you know, initial findings was it attacks your lungs. And it did just that to my dad, Misha. Over the time frame from him going into the hospital and them checking his lungs, and they were clear at the time. They said his oxygen level was low, but his lungs were clear. And once his lungs were clear, and he goes home, and now that he's home, 1, 2, 3, I want to say 4 days passed, and I can hear it in his voice where he can barely breathe. I mean, he's breathing, but he's having tremendous trouble breathing. We're doing the heat therapy. He's doing the nebulizer. Every time he would do the nebulizer, he would say, you know, he's feeling better. He can breathe better. Well, on that Sunday, this was a full 7 days after he had gone to the hospital. My mom took him back to the hospital because on this day, Misha, he couldn't breathe. He could barely put his clothes on, but he didn't want to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go to the hospital, Misha. And the reason he didn't want to go, and I figured that out later, was because he was afraid. He had been watching all these people on TV go into these hospitals and die alone. Yes. Why would he want to do that? Yes. Why would he want to leave his wife, leave 45 years, leave his family to go sit in the hospital and die alone? He didn't want to do that, Misha. So when it was time for him to go to the hospital this day, he asked my mom, can we go take a ride? I think he was just fearful. He was so fearful that he would be one of those numbers, you know, that what he's been seeing on TV. And my mom said he could barely move. And when he got to the hospital, they checked his oxygen level and it was at 60.
Oh no.
And so they intubated him, took him to the hospital, and he was doing great. He was in the hospital. He was doing well. They allowed us to see him on FaceTime, and he was just such a ball of life. And he said, this was on a Thursday because they had already extubated him, and now he's on oxygen, but he's no longer on the oxygen on the wall. He was on the nasal cannula because they were doing BiPAP and nasal cannula. And I can answer those questions if you have any questions, you know, like pertaining to those things, but they would change from oxygen that was connected to the wall, which is the BiPAP, and then they would go to the nasal cannula. And by third, he'd gone in the hospital on Sunday. Thursday, he said, I'm coming home. I feel so good. I can breathe. The doctor said my lungs are clear. I am coming home.
Wow.
Sunday, Misha. Sunday. We got the call. My dad passed.
Brandy.
Misha. It's so devastating because he wanted to live. And that's what I keep saying this. Like my dad, he wanted to live.
Yes. I'm so sorry, Brandy. I'm so sorry.
I know, Misha. I know. I'm sorry I'm so sorry that we weren't prepared.
And Brandy, I commend you for sharing your story with everybody, because I know you do your Wellness Wednesdays on your social platform.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I saw that you've received over maybe 2,000 views on your video. It's been shared constantly because you're putting that messaging out there and you're making people aware, and you are speaking for your father and the other people out there who have lost loved ones to COVID-19.
And I would like to say this, Misha. I will be the voice. There's 85,000 people that has passed from COVID. And it may be more. It's a little more. I don't have the exact number. But from last Wednesday to today, it's been over 12,000 more deaths. For whatever reason, now they're talking about the election, and this has become a blue and a red thing, and there's a division. This is not a blue and a red pandemic. This is a human pandemic.
You have gone through so much that no one would even completely understand, and you're out there sharing your story so others can better themselves.
That is correct.
And I commend you for that, and I thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And guys, if you want to learn more about COVID-19, we'll provide you with websites at the end of the program, as well as we will provide you with all of Brandy's information, the gorgeous warrior, and she is truly that. Thank you so much, Brandy, for joining me.
Thank you so much, Mimi, for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've made my journey to a hidden gem deep in the heart of Porter, Texas, to the beautiful home of Derek Vaughn, owner of Vaughn Arc Architectural Design Firm and partner with VCS Architects. He's going to walk us through the process of architectural design and talk about recent developments he's been working on. Stay tuned. So Derek, thank you for having me in your beautiful home, Porter, Texas. Whoever would have thought of Porter, Texas?
Porter, Texas, yeah.
I love it. Your house is absolutely gorgeous. Did you design it?
I designed it. Me and my wife, of course, I always want to input her because she had a lot to do with the design. We've been living here now for about 2.5 years, and it's been great.
Excellent. Yes. So before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about who Derek Vaughn is?
Derek Vaughn, let's see. Well, I'm from Houston, by way of Louisiana because my mom and dad are from Louisiana. But I thank God that they moved before I was born, and let me become a Houstonian. So it's been. I thank them every day for that because Louisiana's a little different, but I love Louisiana. It's just a little different. I graduated from Smiley High School. Grew up on the north side of town, Little York area, with my wife Sean Vaughn and my son Isaiah. 17 now, getting ready to go to graduate from high school, and my 2 dogs, Zoe and Benson. My parents both live still together, living on the north side, and that's kind of how I ended up in Porter because it's not too far from here.
Excellent.
Used to pass through here all the time, and my wife, earlier she was like, "Hey, I want some land." I grew up on 96 acres. I'm like, "Well, I can only give you one, so we'll take this one." So that's how I ended up here. Also, I'm a graduate of Southern University.
Whoop, whoop.
You're a graduate of Southern
University.
The best school in the land. Yes, best school in the land.
It is.
That's right. Got my architecture degree in '99 and been practicing architecture ever since.
Excellent. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you first got started in the architectural design business?
It's a great question. Well, when I started when I was in high school, 8th grade, I was doing a history class, and I had to come up with a project for history, and I decided to do pyramids. I've always been fascinated with pyramids. Don't ask me why. It's just the whole thing that you can't figure out now.
Right.
Mathematicians still have problems figuring out pyramids, so it's always been a fascination of mine. And I decided to do a pyramid in 8th grade, but I couldn't build models. So at the time, I had my mom had a gentleman, a contractor of ours who we still know today, was doing some work at the house. So she asked him, "Hey, could you help my son do his project?" So I helped him. We bought the materials, got the plywood, we did all the openings, showed the design and everything inside, and it stuck. I got an A on the project.
Right.
9th grade comes around, my mom, we're picking out schedules, and she says, "Why don't you take some drafting classes?" And I'm like, "Mom, I can't draw. Why do I need to take these classes?" She said, "Well, just take it one semester and see if you like it." Mm-hmm. And I did. and end up taking drafting and vocational classes all the way through high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so when it got time for me to go to decide what I wanted to do as a profession, I figured since I wasn't going to be an NBA player, that I would decide to do architecture. So, and let me take that back. I actually wanted to go into civil engineering.
Okay.
But after I found out, because I wasn't a big math guy, but I always knew that I wanted to be in some type of engineering. Architecture just kind of stuck from the beginning, and it became my passion. And now civil engineers work for me, so it's just worked out perfectly.
I love it. So fast forward to today.
Yeah.
You are the owner of Von Ark Architectural Design Firm, as
Yeah.
well as a partner with VCS Architects.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your design firm?
Sure. When I first got out of school, I worked for firms doing education and doing residential projects. Actually, my first job was doing strictly residential, and the gentleman I was working for, he allowed me to design and do construction. So we take the house, we design it, and then we go build it, which was fascinating for me, right? Because I mean, that's kind of like, man, I always wanted to do this. So as we were doing that, I found myself getting into the process where, okay, don't want to just do residential because I need to be well-rounded, so I want to do commercial. Well, that's all he did was commercial.
Okay.
I mean, residential work. So what I decided to do was I quit that job and I started working for a firm that did more of both. So it gave me opportunities early in life to realize that, I need to
Diversify.
be diversified.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with my businesses. So in 2005, while I was still working for firms, I opened up my Von Ark Design Firm, which is a residential firm, and I've had that since 2005. Fast forward to 2012, I decided to quit and work full-time on Von Ark, but at the same time decided to open up VCS Architects, which is the commercial side of my job. So since 2012, I've been doing VCS Architects.
Wow.
And in the process of opening up another business, which is construction. So trying to keep it all commercial, residential construction, keep it all
under one roof. I love it.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of developments that you're working on right now.
Right.
Most recently, the ones in Fifth Ward.
Right.
I saw a funny clip which they're going to be able to see of you actually walking through that process of going into the homes, and you have your pad with you, and you just automatically can envision something and start drafting that.
Right.
Can you tell us about your recent developments?
Well, did I ever tell you that I wanted to be a rapper?
No.
So when I do architecture,
Can you rap?
I can't rap. But I always wanted to be a rapper.
I love it.
Yeah, so when you talk about pen and pad, I think of rap because, a lot of times guys, their stuff start flowing in their head and they just start jotting it down. Kind of same thing with architecture. I go into a space and a rap starts in my head.
Wow.
In a sense. Like, hey, this should go there, this should go here. So it's really, you're putting things together, but you never know how it's going to end until everything is put together. Kind of like a rap. You start it off, and then as it goes through, you say, okay, I'm going to need these words. No, I don't need that. Well, maybe this will work better here. Maybe it'll work better there. So I consider myself a rap architect, just to be funny.
How interesting
Yes.
is that? I would have never thought about it like that. I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier when we were talking about a gentleman that helped you out when you were in middle school.
Right.
And he kind of set you on your path, I would say, to architecture.
He did. He did.
So he was kind of like a mentor to you.
He was a mentor. My mom was an inspiration. I'm a big advocate that, you never know who is going to influence you young and make you make decisions later on in life. So, yeah, the more people you can bring in that's positive can, help you kind of channel the way you want to go. And actually, that gentleman who helped me do that project actually helped me build my house.
Interesting.
It's crazy how 30 years later things come back around, right?
30 years later.
Yep.
So he made such an impact on you that you are still in touch with him.
Yes.
Can I ask you, do you do anything to give back to the community to mentor young minds like that? Because you see that he had an opportunity to make a big impact in your life.
Definitely. I always keep that in mind, and I do. I have a couple of mentorship programs that I work with, one being the local schools. I go into high schools all the time, and I specifically like to talk to the 9th graders, kind of because that's where I got my start. You go in, you never really know exactly what you want to do at that time, so it's good to have somebody to kind of give you an idea of not necessarily a career, but how to go about thinking about careers and a path that you can take based on where you are at that particular time. So I go into schools a lot, and I don't really tell them about, hey, go into architecture, but I do give them philosophies of success. My 2 philosophies of success is the bullseye approach, which I use a lot in my speaks with them, or talks with them, and also that I give them a saying that success is personal. A lot of people ask, well, what do you mean by success is personal? Well, the way I see it is simple as, if you couldn't tie your shoe yesterday, but you can tie it today, then you're more successful today than you were yesterday. It's simple, right? Yeah. But it really holds volume, because what that basically means is stay in your lane to what you're used to. You don't necessarily have to look at somebody else and what they have to determine your success. Your success is your success based on how you handle what's been given to you and how you take what you have, the mistakes, the positives, the wins, the losses, and you use them to keep moving you forward. So
I love that. And speaking of success being personal,
right,
you and your wife are serial entrepreneurs.
Yes, we
and you guys have a t-shirt line.
We do.
And if people are interested in purchasing that Success is Personal t-shirt, you guys can provide that for them. We can provide
that as well. Yeah, I wear that shirt all the time, and I get a lot of questions on that shirt. And I like, it's a conversation piece for me. It allows me to just, to engage with people. Especially, I wear it when I go to the schools, and they're like, well, what does that mean? And I want them to understand that you don't, just because you are you and you want to be like somebody else, it's fine. It's cool to have role models and people to emulate, but at the end of the day, your decisions, your choices are your choices, and they're who define who you're going to be in life. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, to close out the interview, Derek, if I am watching today and I would love to get in touch with you, because I don't want that cookie cutter home, I want something specifically designed to my taste.
Right.
Can I reach out to you, or how can I reach out to you?
Well, I have, of course, because I have several companies. First company being Von Arc. You can reach out to me at dvon1234@yahoo.com, or you can reach out to me on VCS Architects, which is, we have a website, www.vcsarch.com. And also I'm in the process of getting my website set up for Dreaming Construction, but they're all tied together. So if you get me for one, you get me for any.
I love it. Well, Derek, thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of According to Mimi. I know everybody out there is going to be interested and start hitting you up on, what was it, dvon1234@yahoo.com.
Yes, appreciate you. Thank you.
I'd like to leave you with a moment of inspiration by Pastor Blake that is sure to inspire and uplift you. Until next month, I'm your host, Mimi McClure, and this is According to Mimi.
Hey, this is Pastor Blake Wilson. I'm so excited to participate in an episode for According to Mimi, a great member of our congregation. Mimi, I want to just say thank you, first of all, for all you're doing for our community to bring bright spots and bright lights into the lives of people. And so thank you so much. And let me talk to you today about the inspirational word that I've been given, the road of resistance. Oftentimes people try to travel the road of least resistance. We don't want to have anything tough. We don't want to have anything rough to push against us. We want to make it down easy street. But life has never been easy street if you're talking about African American people. When you start talking about African American people, we've always traveled the road of resistance. Whether it's traveling through the diaspora from the transatlantic slave trade to North America, whether it's the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman or with Nat Turner and Revolution, whether it's the Civil Rights Movement with Martin Luther King and or Rosa Parks. We've always traveled a road of resistance. See, what resistance does is it builds up your muscles and your strength to endure. A few years ago, I was working out with a workout coach. His name was Coach Said. Coach Said made sure that as he trained me, that he said, I want to build you up by doing resistance training. First of all, he would train me for about 12 minutes, say, get some water. Then he'd say 24 minutes, get some water. Then it was 30 minutes, get some water. But then all of a sudden it became an hour, no water. An hour and 15 minutes, no water. What was he doing? Through all of his training methods, he was building me up so that I could have strength and endurance. See, you need strength and endurance. You need the road to resistance, because what the road to resistance does is it lets you know that there's nothing in your way that's going to stop you, that you build up the strength and the endurance to press forward, even against the toughest of circumstances. Our people have always stood and always pushed against the toughest of circumstances. See, when you come into Jim Crow segregation and the government is against you and legislation is against you, but yet a man of peace, Martin Luther King, and all the warriors of the civil rights movement decide we are going to travel the road of resistance. The road of resistance crumbled because they had the power and the strength and the endurance to press through. As a result, when you look at the historically black college movement, when you would not allow us into schools, we started our own schools. Why? Because we've traveled the road of resistance. And watch that. That's our people. In 1964, 1968, we began to vote in the election for the President of the United States. And 10 elections later, in 2008, Barack Obama is elected the President of the United States of America. That is the road of resistance. We've always traveled it. And I want to encourage you in your own space, in your own sphere of influence, wherever you are. You may not be Obama. You may not be Dr. King. You may not be Rosa Parks. You may not be Frederick Douglass or Nat Turner. You may not be any of those individuals. But can I tell you this? You are where you are. And I want you to travel the road of resistance. When we look back throughout biblical history, Joseph traveled the road of resistance. Moses traveled the road of resistance. Jesus Christ traveled the road of resistance. But guess what? As God orders our steps, he has a road of resistance for you to travel as well. What is God doing in your life right now? What does he want you to press forward, to push through, to endure, and to go all the way? We're not running a sprint. We're running a marathon. And we have a people who have a history from 1619 to 2020 and in America, in these yet to be United States of America, that we've always traveled the road of resistance. And so my prayer is that today you and I would continue to travel that road together and watch things crumble as we press forward and we refuse to be denied by anything that's moving against us. God bless you, and I pray that this was a word of inspiration.